Hello everyone and welcome to the St John's Grammar Learning Early series. I'm Jodie Benveniste, a psychologist, parenting author and the director of parentwellbeing.com. If you're the parent of a young child who is about to start at an early learning centre or preschool or even at school, then this series is for you. We're going to be addressing some of the really common concerns and issues that parents have as their child's moving into these more formal schooling years, and we're going to get some great tips, insight and advice from the wonderful teachers here at St John's Grammar School in beautiful Belair, South Australia. We're also going to hear from some of the parents of the school who've been through it all before. In this first episode, we're going to talk about what are some of those concerns, what are some of those issues that many of us experience as parents when our child is about to start either at kindy, early learning centre or at school. I'd like to introduce you today to two of our wonderful teachers here. We have Philippa Marsh, who is a reception teacher, and we also have Sue Cullen, who is a teacher in the Early Learning Centre. Two very experienced and wonderful teachers. My kids have been taught by both of them, and today we wanted to really talk about what are the issues that we see amongst parents, so that you know that you're not alone. It's very common to be worried about certain things during this time. So we're going to talk about those today. So, Philippa and Sue, what do you see amongst parents, the sort of worries, the concerns that when their child's about to embark on, whether it's in the early learning centre as 3-year-olds or starting school? What do you guys see?
I guess one of the things that we often see or get feedback or questions about, and it's that anxiety about how will my child go when I'm not there? How will they go finding where their bag is? How will they go when they need to go to the toilet? Even for coming in and what is the routine of the day? What's the day going to look like? There's those. And when I'm not there to do things for them, will they know their lunchbox? Can they open their lunchbox? Those sorts.
So it's all those sort of practical, how does the classroom work? How does the early learning centre work? Is my child independent enough to be able to manage all the things they need to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what do you see, Philippa?
Well, one particular thing would be often routines. Like Sue said, routines in the classroom, but also the routine of before school. Some parents get a bit anxious about being able to get to school on time and the chaos that happens in the morning. But we're always happy to hear about if there is a success with getting to school, or sometimes if there's challenges, because then we can work with the families as well and we can help then set up the child for the day.
Yeah. No, that's really true. I think there's, I know amongst so many parents that stress, that morning stress of how am I going to get my child to school. There's, they've got to have everything they're supposed to have, and there's that they've got to be wearing the right clothes, the right uniform, that sort of thing. So those sort of routines in the morning can be stressful, can't they?
And also too, as you get more children coming through, so that how am I going to juggle the early learning centre drop-off, but also the school drop? How am I going to be there in the afternoon to pick up? So you've got those kind of juggling which is starting to happen.
Or you might have a younger child still at childcare, and then you've got to get to the early learning centre or the school. So, the logistics, aren't they? I think that's really a really common concern. And what about in the classroom, once the kids are there and they have settled in for the day? What sort of issues come up for parents there around what's happening in the classroom?
Well, like Sue said, often about the child being able to manage themselves in the classroom, about toileting. Sometimes there's concerns about that, and the child knowing what to do if they need to ask and where to go. They become concerns. Also, sometimes discipline is a concern for parents. Some parents are concerned that discipline is the way it used to be when we all went to school. But obviously things are a lot more positive now, and we really focus on the positives with the children. We often find and have a laugh that the children, just surprisingly, they come to school, they're so eager, so the behaviour isn't an issue. They just jump in, they want to please, they just are so engaged all day that we really don't have many concerns.
I think there is that concern, isn't it? How will my child manage, how will they cope? How will they behave? Will they behave properly in the classroom? Do you see that as well in the early learning centre too?
We do. Sometimes we'll have that. How are they going to go all day because they're still having a nap or a sleep in the afternoon? Will they have the stamina? Will they be able to put the time together?
Yeah.
For others, oh no, they don't sit. They're going to sit to do anything. So they're very active children. So those sorts of things, and also too, well, what are they going to eat? How will I know if they're drinking enough? Eating enough? Those sorts of things.
Because I suppose when you've had your younger child, even if they've been in childcare, you've spent most of your time as a parent with them, and you've seen what they're doing through their day. You know what they're eating and not eating. What they're playing with, and of course when they're heading off to the ELC or to school, there's all this stuff going on that you don't necessarily know about as a parent.
Exactly, that's right. And also, Jodie, too, there's often that, when is it a good time for me to leave? So once I've said, we're in the door, we've got there, okay. Some children might be a little bit clingy, might need a little bit more time to settle. So what's the best scenario, and sort of all those concerns as well. Like, do I stay too long?
Yes.
Do I I've got to get to work. What happens?
And then how much of their jobs in the morning am I involved with? How much do I get them to do? And then also talking to the teachers. Sometimes parents get a little bit anxious about that. Do they get their child to go and tell their teacher if there's an important message, or do they go and speak to the teacher?
I know when my daughter first started school, she started at the ELC first off, and one of the other parents actually took me under her wing and told me, what, because she had an older child, and she sort of guided me as a parent, because it's not just your child who's starting ELC or school for the first time, it's also yourself as a parent, and you can be worried about what you're supposed to do and what your role is, and as you say, what you should and shouldn't be doing for your child. So that's really true. And what about sort of learning? Because I know when I was at school, I think now to what my kids do, and classrooms are really different places, and there seems to be so much better knowledge about how kids learn and what works well with teaching and learning. So how do if you've only got memories of your child of your own schooling, is that a concern sometimes for parents? What's going on with the learning in the classroom?
Yes, well, I think it is often a concern for parents, and the fact is that the children learn so much more through play and investigation now, which is very different to how we all learned at school. Likewise with reading at home and different jobs that they'd have to do at home. Parents sometimes get concerned about homework and how much their child has to be doing, and how much they need to rest at home as well. So both those things are often concerns.
There's a lot going on, isn't there?
And I think sometimes too, I guess in the early learning centre being Montessori based, so we have some quite different equipment that often parents wouldn't have seen, or not quite sure what the benefits are, and also just through the play based work, there's a whole lot of different layering. So what might be looking like, they're just playing. There's so many other skills underlying, and you, often you don't understand the nuances. So that sometimes for parents, they can be a little bit concerned about, well, what's my child learning? What is actually happening? But there's so many subtle and foundation skills.
Which they learn through play. And I think the other thing is this, right? That I know that I was concerned as a parent that you do worry about how your child is progressing and how they might be going, and you also, even though you probably shouldn't, compare your child to others. Do you see that happening?
Definitely comparing them to others in the class. How is the child going on par with the rest of the class? But then also comparing to other siblings that may have found it easier or harder to pick things up. So that's always a common issue.
And do you see that even in the ELC?
We do. Because we just take the children as they come through the door, and they all come in their own different stage of their journey and with varying skills. But absolutely, for some parents, it's like, my child can't do that. They don't know how to do that, and so there's often a lot of comparison. Across the range. Absolutely.
And luckily, the good thing is that we're actually going to be talking about all of these concerns and issues and addressing them and giving you some tips and advice in future series. So So watch out for the rest of the episodes. The other thing that I know sometimes comes up for parents is not only how their child's going academically or with their reading or writing, but also socially and emotionally. Is that something that comes up as well?
We often, I think, a real concern there is the friendships.
Yes.
And okay, so my child comes home, or what have they done? And they often say, no, they haven't played with any good.
Yeah.
And so that whole concept of will they have friends? Who are their friends? And for some starting to, sometimes children know each other very well. So there's also that concern that because they know each other so well, will they be able to make other friendships? So there's a whole, real lot of concerns around the social.
Yeah.
And likewise, not just with relationships with their peers, but with staff members, teachers, and then other school staff.
Yeah.
The children need to build that relationship with them, and parents are often concerned that they won't be confident enough or feel comfortable enough to go up and approach an adult.
Yeah, if they need help or if something's going wrong. Yeah. So it's a whole gamut of things, isn't it?
And for Jodie too, for some of the children, it's their first time away from home.
Yes.
So there's those sorts of emotional resilience.
Yes.
As well. They're just how they want to cope.
Yeah, and of course some children have been to childcare or with grandparents or with family daycare, and others haven't. Is that also a concern sometimes for parents about whether their child has been in those sorts of settings and whether that's going to make a difference?
So sometimes we have people almost apologising that I'm sorry they haven't been anywhere, and it's how it is, and absolutely. So
and each child comes as they are, and we work from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. It's been great to talk to both of you. I know that as a parent, we can sometimes think that we're the only ones who have these concerns and have these worries and have these stresses. And, when our children are moving from, one phase of life to the next, and schooling really is one of those times where there is a big change. It can feel stressful for us because we're not sure of what our role is during that time, but it can also be stressful for our children. And I think it really does help to know that these are really common concerns and that all of them can be addressed and overcome. So that's what this series is all about. The St John's Grammar Learning Early series is really to be able to take some of these concerns, which are very common, and to address them and give you some tips and advice so that you're really well prepared for this next stage in your child's life, and both of you can enjoy it as much as possible. So thank you very much for joining us. We hope that you will join us in the next episode. The next episode we're going to be talking about school routines and those morning routines, how you actually get your kids out the door without yelling and losing it, and how you can set up some rituals and routines that really help ease your children into the school day. If you have any questions or any comments about today's episode, we'd love to hear them. You can post in the comments section below, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions. So thank you again to Philippa and to Sue for joining us today. Thanks for your insight. It's been fantastic. And we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye.